Welcome back, friends. Great amount of hopes have been tied to the Astrazeneca-Oxford vaccine as being the panacea for much of the COVID-19 ills that are prevailing over the developing world. Touted as being a vaccine which can be stored at relatively higher temperatures, easier to distribute as well. The Astrazeneca-Oxford vaccine has been touted as being the panacea for much of the ills. Yet, over the last week, some new revelations have come and new controversies have emerged as well. The Anglo-Swedish Drugs Company and the Oxford's Jenner Institute revealed this week that depending on the dosage, their vaccine was either 62% or 90% effective. Now that's quite a wide margin. However, what they did not initially point out was that the higher rate, which is 90%, applied only to a small sample of patients aged 55 or less, or that it had come about seemingly by mistake. These omissions have sparked a storm of criticism over the transparency and risk fueling anti-vaccine campaigners in the midst of a raging pandemic, which seems to be growing out of bounds. Yet, one should realize that both the efficacy rates met regulators' targets for approval. The regulator had set a 50% threshold, and in the end, what matters most is what regulators say when they have the data. Regulators and the rest of the world will soon have the full data. The Oxford academics who developed the vaccine have submitted a paper setting out their phase 3 results to the Lancet Medical Journal. They will be working over the weekend to answer questions from the journal and its referees, and the article could be published as soon as early Thursday. Vaccine makers have committed to publish all the clinical trials in peer-reviewed publications to an extent like never before, whether they are good or bad. In the meantime, questions will continue to circulate about how AstraZeneca, one of the most successful drug companies, and Oxford University found their credibility under fire. After all, the Oxford vaccine, even if confirmed as being less effective, will still be crucial to fighting the virus in developing countries. Not only has AstraZeneca promised to make no profit from this vaccine during the pandemic, but the vaccine is easier to store and transport than the other two from Moderna and Pfizer, the most advanced candidates for the vaccine. These may have higher efficacy rates of 90% or more, but they have to be stored at temperatures well below zero. People with knowledge of the process say that after learning the results of the interim analysis of the trial results last weekend, the AstraZeneca and Oxford teams focused on how to present the different rates clearly on Monday rather than explaining how they occurred. There was little or no discussion of how some trial participants ended up receiving only half a dose in the first shot of the 2-shot vaccine course. Yet, within hours of announcing the results, doubts began to emerge about the data. Moncef Slaoui, head of the US Vaccine Task Force Operation Warp Speed, suggested that the difference in success rates could be random in nature. Some statistical experts have also suggested that chance could explain why the subgroup who received a half dose of vaccine followed by a full dose a month later were apparently better protected than the larger number of participants who were given 2 full doses of the vaccine. Mr. Slaoui's intervention surprised some who suspect that there may be an element of nationalism which may be creeping into the race to develop vaccines. But it was still surprising that neither AstraZeneca nor Oxford realized that they would have to do more to explain their findings. One can definitely say that the transparency from the Oxford and the AstraZeneca has not been on par with what one has seen from the other drug makers. But then they are working under tremendous pressure, no doubts, because a third of the world's COVID-19 vaccine is due to come from AstraZeneca. Now, Till Bruckner, who's the founder of clinical trial transparency advocacy group Transperi MED, says that releasing partial results to the media and investors sows confusion and makes the challenge of ending the pandemic even harder. However, the scientists on the trial seem reluctant to admit any mistake or error. Some suggest different processes were used to measure how much active ingredient was there in the vaccine after all. But whatever may be the real reason, some participants in the early clinical trials received a first dose that was half of what was intended. When the researchers realized what had happened, they decided to carry on with this regime for part of the trial, of course in consultation with the regulators. It wasn't a mix-up in dosing, according to Professor Sarah Gilbert, a leader of the Oxford vaccine project. It's quite usual to look at different dose levels when we do vaccine trials, according to her. The controversy has shown up in AstraZeneca shares, which fell nearly 7% over the past week. Several long-time investors say that they were not particularly worried about the fall. For long-term investors, AstraZeneca's investment case relies on the success of its oncology portfolio. However, all were critical of the group's handling of the events. They should have put out more information. If you're going to put two numbers that are so solidly different from each other, then you need more information. It is also completely short-sighted. Nevertheless, what really matters is whether or not the vaccine is effective. In the end, between a vaccine with an efficacy of 85% and 80%, the best one is the one which is closest to my house. I hope you guys also got the message. How AstraZeneca-Oxford vaccine is going to treat such a large percentage of the world, how the world depends on it, and how the world financial markets, the world economies are dependent on this Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, and how much responsibility is there on this company to be able to take the world economies forward. Any disruption in this vaccine can completely send shivers down the world and can disrupt the recovery in the economic process that is currently ongoing. So, great amount of responsibility lies on the shoulders of AstraZeneca-Oxford vaccine, and which is going to dictate the fortunes of the world in times close, near, short term and medium term. Happy investing and have a nice day. Take care. Bye-bye.